y'all. I'm Sarah Wall in the Fox 10 newsroom. Thanks so much for joining us today as we go in depth. And today we're talking about increased patrols on the roads by Mobile Police. And the reason that they're doing this is because we have seen an uptick in the number of fatal accidents across our area since the start of the new year. Officials say we're up like 50% more fatal accidents than we normally have. And of course, we don't want that to happen. So Mobile Police working to make our streets safer by increasing patrols. So we're going to talk a little bit about what they are doing, but they did send out some information and you can see it here on your screen. This is a new traffic enforcement operation, and because of recent traffic accidents, they've resulted in a high number of fatalities so far this year. So Mobile Police are going to address the trend, right? Of the 8 traffic fatalities recorded in our community this year, 6 have involved contributing factors. So what we're going to talk about here is what they're going to be doing to improve roadway safety and encourage compliance with traffic laws. Officers are going to be out conducting increased patrols in high traffic areas, and these efforts are going to focus on speeding and other violations to reduce crashes, especially trying to involve crashes involving serious injury or death. So this is what is happening on our roadways right now. But we have been talking about quite a few issues and quite a few incidents, very sad stories to talk about, and we're going to kind of give you an update on where we are on some of these. Y'all, these are 3 that I'm going to talk about, and they're just from this week alone. So Mobile Police are investigating a deadly crash involving a pedestrian in Theodore. This happened yesterday morning. Investigators say around 5:15 yesterday morning, they discovered a man dead on Highway 90 between Bellingrath Road and Old Rock Road. Mobile Police say the victim was using a walker when he was struck by a car. Police say the driver of the car did remain on the scene. At this point, they have not released the name of the victim in that accident there, but there was a deadly accident yesterday morning on Highway 90 between Bellingrath Road and Old Rock Road. That was a pedestrian accident. We also had a deadly accident happen this week on Old Shell Road. Mobile Police identifying the victim now in a deadly crash in Midtown Mobile that happened around 3:15 on Monday afternoon. It happened at the area of Old Shell Road and Cosgrove Drive, which is very near the University of South Alabama. Officials say that Carlos Funes was killed. Police say that Funes was standing outside of his vehicle with hazard lights on in the westbound lane of Old Shell Road when another vehicle traveling westbound hit him. Officials did mention that the driver of the car remained on the scene of this accident as well. And again, just to reiterate, these are 2 just within the last week. And the investigation is continuing into a 3rd fatal accident. This one we're learning more about. It was a weekend crash involving a car and an Amtrak train in Mobile. A mother and her 8-year-old daughter were killed. Mobile Police say that the car was hit by the train after going around visible warnings. So those are like, officials say that the audible signal, the flashing light, the crossing arms were down and functioning properly at the time of the crash. So the train traveled about 700 yards before it came to a stop, and officials have identified the mom and the daughter killed in this accident. 31-year-old Brittany Williams and her 8-year-old daughter did die at the scene. There were 38 passengers and also crew members on board the train, and they were not hurt. Now, Amtrak did release a statement talking about this, saying in part, according to the Federal Railroad Administration, railroad crossing incidents are the 2nd leading cause of rail-related deaths in America. These incidents affect everyone involved, those who are injured or die and their families, our train crews and our passengers. They serve as critical reminders about the importance of obeying the law and exercising extreme caution around railroad tracks and crossing. Officials say there have been 4 collisions and 6 fatalities involving Amtrak trains within the 6 months since passenger rail service returned to the Gulf Coast. Amtrak says it's going to continue to work to raise awareness to reduce track tragedies. Okay, so as I mentioned, Mobile Police are saying that they have seen an increase in traffic accidents and fatalities from traffic accidents across our area. In fact, when we talk to Mobile Police, they say Unfortunately, this time of year, we were at half of the traffic fatalities we have today. So at this point this year, we're up 50% with not just traffic accidents, but people who are killed in traffic accidents. So back to this traffic enforcement ramp up. Mobile police are working to improve safety on the roads after 2 fatal crashes involving pedestrians, and also after these multiple different traffic fatalities that we have been talking about. Again, since the start of the year, we're up 50% from where we were last year. So that's a lot of additional traffic accidents that are happening here, and people are dying. One victim, again, as we said, was struck while trying to cross Highway 90. The victim was using a walker, and the other was struck standing by their disabled car on Old Shell Road. Investigators are talking about the fact that distracted driving was a primary factor in many of these cases. Police say traffic fatalities in Mobile are up 50% again compared to this time last year. So we talked to Mobile police, but we also started talking to some folks out and about on whether or not we think that walking and being a pedestrian is something that's easy to do in the city.
I think that if you go to like certain outskirts of areas like Spring Hill's extremely walkable, things like that, but high traffic areas in the heart of Mobile, not at all.
And, and that's an opinion that, talking to different people about what's going on when they're out there walking or, trying to get from place to place. So for the next 2 weeks, Mobile police are going to be out in force, and they're going to be issuing citations to stop the spike in crashes. And they're talking to drivers to remind them to slow down, put the phones away, and stay alert. And just a side note here, when our crew was out yesterday working on this story over near the University of South Alabama, they actually saw someone on a scooter get bumped by a car, and that person in the scooter, everybody's okay, but they did get bumped by a car. So, talking about as they're out there, they're seeing these things happen. So Mobile police again saying distracted driving has been a common factor in several of these recent fatal car crashes. They are, stepping up patrols in a response to these traffic deaths. And again, we talked with them, and they talked about the fact that, that we're seeing so many more happening across the area. It's time for them to step in and get involved. So taking a look specifically at Mobile Police here, I pulled up their website just so that you can see that they do keep track of all of these situations that they're dealing with. They have a page that has news on it, and a couple of these things are some of the things that we've been talking about. The Old Shell Road traffic fatality, the traffic fatality involving the Amtrak train, and then you can get the details about what happened here if you would like more information. Now, the folks that are working here, we do have the Special Operations Section Traffic Safety Unit. And we see these folks out and about on our roadways already. They respond to accidents, they enforce traffic laws, they provide traffic escorts. But this is one of the, the areas that we're going to be seeing is we are going to be seeing more officers out on the roadways in order to try to make sure that people are following the laws and not speeding and buckled up and all the different things that we're supposed to be doing, because that will make sure that people are safer, right? So following the laws are designed to keep us safe. So that's why Mobile police are going to be out and about in these different areas. And, looking at what they say that there were some distracted driving situations, and that's what was involved in a lot of these accidents, these fatal accidents. So the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration putting out some information, and just a reminder for all of us on what would be considered a risky behavior on our nation's roads. Drunk driving, of course, this is the #1 priority in terms of, when it comes to safety. There are a lot of situations that happen with drunk driving. And again, y'all, this is just an overview. So officials have told us that distracted driving was involved with some of these fatality accidents that we've been seeing. Now we're kind of talking in general terms about what officials say are reasons that we have distracted driving. This is not tying any of these specifically to any of these accidents. So just a reminder for all of us on how to, what to avoid when it comes to risky driving. But in 2023, they had 12,429 deaths from drunk driving crashes. And, every day about 34 people in the United States die in drunk driving crashes. So that's one person every 42 minutes back in 2023. There are a number. Drug impaired driving also is something that they're, making sure that people know about when you get behind the wheel. Obviously, you don't want to be impaired. You don't want to have been drinking. You also don't want to have been taking drugs or under the influence of alcohol, marijuana, opioids, or methamphetamine. But 56% of drivers involved in serious injury or fatal crashes who tested positive for at least one drug. So they are saying overall, in general terms across the country, that drug impaired driving is an issue. Distracted driving. So this is kind of what we're talking about here when Mobile Police referring to distracted driving. And there are a lot of different reasons that we can become distracted, right? Distracted driving is dangerous. It claims more than 3,200 lives in 2023. And they want to make sure that everybody is understanding what distracted driving can be. So a lot of that has to do with putting the phone away. Distracted driving is any activity that diverts attention from driving, including talking or texting on your phone, eating and drinking, talking to the people you have in your car, messing with the stereo, the entertainment or navigation system, anything that takes our eyes off the road and away from the task of safe driving. Texting, they say, is the most alarming distraction because sending or reading text messages takes our eyes off the road for 5 seconds. And if you're driving 55 miles per hour, your eyes off the road for 5 seconds is like going the entire length of a football field with your eyes closed. So officials reminding us that we can't drive safely unless our driving has our full attention, right? So anything that distracts us from what's happening on the road, anything that takes our attention away, even if just for a second, that is what qualifies as distracted driving. And then they remind us too about some other dangerous things that can happen is speeding. When you speed, you put everyone at risk. And if you're drowsy, this is something that's interesting. A lot of times you don't realize, but when you're sleepy, that actually can be a big problem on the roadways as well. Drowsy driving kills, but it is preventable, right? Drowsy driving facts, 633 deaths from drowsy driving related crashes in 2023. That's a pretty high number when we take a look at it. So see, there's some of the different things that they say are among the most risky behaviors when it comes to driving, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Again, Mobile Police say that distracted driving was likely involved in some of these fatality accidents that we are talking about, but we're talking in general terms as well as what some of the most risky driving things can be. So a reminder as we head out on the roadways how to stay safe. So buckle up every time we get behind the car. That's not only you, but that's your little ones as well. And if you have little ones in a car seat, so important to make sure all of that is situated and installed correctly. Make sure children are in the right seat. That comes to car seats, right? It also comes to where they sit inside the car. But we have car seats, we have booster seats, we have all kinds of different things that are out there and available to make sure that our children are safe. Drive sober, that has to do with alcohol and drugs. Driving impaired is very dangerous. It's also a deadly crime. Pay attention to the road. This is the distracting driving that we're talking about. Talking or texting on your phone, eating and drinking, talking to people in your car, all of that can result in distracted driving, taking your eyes off of what you're doing so you're not paying attention to driving. Go the speed limit. Speeding puts you and passengers and everybody on the road with you potentially in unnecessary danger. And also officials say when you're speeding, the chance for having a more severe injury in a crash goes up, right? Speed affects your safety when you're driving, the speed limit too. And remember road conditions and construction zones and dawn and dusk and all of that. Don't drive sleepy, of course. We just talked about drowsy driving. Share the road responsibly. We're going to have people who are walking, like the pedestrians that we've been talking about. We had one situation, again, where someone was outside of their car because their car was disabled. Keep an eye out for pedestrians, motorcyclists, bicyclists, emergency vehicles, other people on the road. Just make sure we're paying attention to everyone out there. Pay attention to flashing lights, move over. All 50 states have move over laws to protect law enforcement officers and emergency responders and people working on the road doing road construction. Keeping in mind also, we have to be careful if there's a school bus. If it has its yellow lights flashing, you have to slow down and prepare to stop. If the red lights are flashing and the stop arm is out, you've got to come to a complete stop and wait till they bring that back in. Talk to our teenage drivers. This is one of the things we talk about. They have a time of year in the summertime that they kind of like qualify as some of the most dangerous time for teenage drivers to be driving. But all year round, we need to talk to our teenage drivers, remind them they're not invincible. Bad things can happen. They need to make sure they follow the law, they wear their seatbelts, follow the speed limits, put away their phones, don't have a whole bunch of people potentially in the car with them to where they could be distracted, right? So a lot of things to be thinking about when it comes to driving safely on the roads. And it's super, super important because y'all, what's happening is we're seeing people who are being killed on the roads. And that's something that Mobile Police is wanting to make sure we bring that down. So again, they have this traffic enforcement that they're going to be doing here. They started it yesterday, and this is in full swing. So I did talk with Mobile Police this morning, and they let us know that yesterday they began with some roving patrols. So officers are using radar and they're on the lookout for violations as they patrol. That's something that's going to continue on as we work our way through this traffic enforcement operation, this increased traffic enforcement operation. They also have officers moving from busy intersections to another throughout their shift. So for example, yesterday they spent a lot of time on Ziegler Boulevard close to University. That was one of those high traffic areas yesterday that Mobile Police were there looking and making sure everybody was being safe. And they're going to continue to move to high traffic areas over the next 2 weeks within the city of Mobile. But again, the goal here isn't to give you a ticket, and the goal here isn't to get you in trouble. The goal here is to reduce the number of traffic fatalities and traffic accidents that we're having and we're seeing across our area. Because as we mentioned earlier, the statistics are showing, unfortunately this time last year we were at half the traffic fatalities we have today. We are up 50% now. As compared to last year. It's not only alarming, but it's scary and it's dangerous, and we want to make sure that everybody stays safe. That said, we want to make sure that you are aware that Mobile Police are ramping up traffic safety patrols. They're going to have roving patrols, so they're going to have radar and be on the lookout for violations as they patrol, moving around the city, right? Roving patrols means moving in and out, and they're also going to be at busy intersections, going from one busy intersection to another. And I just said that yesterday, for example, they were at Ziegler Boulevard, close to University Boulevard, working to make sure that people are following the laws and being safe. And it's interesting, I have a teenage driver, right? And so, and I talk to my teenage drivers and I let them know it's not just about what you're doing on the roads, it has to do with what other people are doing on the roads as well. So we want to make sure that not only are we safe for ourselves and our families, but for everybody else who's out there with us, because we really, reducing the number of traffic fatalities and traffic accidents is obviously something that everyone wants to do. I mean, just this week, since Saturday, we've had 3 accidents and all 3 of them have been fatal. We've had 4 people killed just since Saturday having to do with what's going on the roads. One having to do with an Amtrak train collision there at a railroad crossing. One having to do with someone standing outside of a disabled car. This is all according to officials. And then another one where a pedestrian was trying to cross the street. So just to let you know, a reminder that Mobile Police are going to be out there ramping up their patrols for us with radar, roving patrols, busy intersections, etc. But it is designed to keep you and your loved ones and your favorite people safe. So y'all be careful out there on the roads and let's take care of each other.